The Xbox Series X is a great console, but it is no stranger to DRM controversy and criticism. Only a few weeks ago, a major Xbox Live network outage rendered many players unable to play their purchased games. And today, I thought it would be a good idea to deep dive into Xbox physical media on the Xbox Series X and its DRM implications. For those who collect Xbox physical media and are wondering if those games can be preserved, then this video is for you. I've made a point to keep any opinions out about my thoughts on DRM, and I will only present facts in this video. So with that, let's jump in. So what we're going to do today is take a closer look at Xbox physical media. There's been a lot of confusion and a lot of talk about Xbox DRM, and I think I want to just kind of clarify a couple of things when it comes to physical media, because that's really what most people are interested in. There's a lot of conjecture and speculation and talk that most Xbox physical games that run on the Series X have some kind of DRM requirement where it needs online server connectivity. So today I decided that I would basically just test out a bunch of different games, and we've got Resident Evil Village here, and this you can see is a smart delivery game. We've got Far Cry 6, again a smart delivery title. We've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is a smart delivery title. We've got Balan Wonderworld, everyone's favorite game, again a smart delivery title. And we also have GTA 5, which is just an Xbox Series X exclusive title. And a last generation game, Crackdown 3, which is an Xbox One console exclusive. So the goal of today's video is we're going to install all these games with our Xbox offline and running as the home console, and determine which of these games actually do work without requiring any online connectivity to download any additional updates or patches. Okay, so before we do anything, the first thing that I want to do is disconnect the Xbox from the network. So in order to do that, there's two things that I want to set up first and make sure that we have established before we take the Xbox offline. The first one is going into personalization and making sure that this is our home Xbox. Now, the reason why we want to do this is because it allows you to play games without signing in. It even says here, when this is your home Xbox, people can play your downloaded games without you signing in. Plus, if you have gold, your whole household gets to enjoy gold on this Xbox console. So we have indeed set this Xbox to our home console. And now what we want to do is go into our network settings and disconnect our wireless and go offline. So with both of these things done, we've essentially just untethered ourselves from Xbox Live. Now, to validate that things aren't working, if we launch Quake, which is a Game Pass game, there's probably going to be a message here that says, yep, sign in and renew the subscription. This is pretty standard stuff. Obviously, this is a Game Pass game, so it does want that authentication to Game Pass for you to validate before you can play the game. If we try to launch something like YouTube, it's probably not going to work. Sorry, you could not connect to YouTube. So we are indeed disconnected from Xbox Live. So this is where the fun starts. So now we're going to take a sample of different games and install them on the Xbox and see what the behaviors are. The first one being an Xbox One last generation console game. In this instance, Crackdown 3. This is a Xbox One console exclusive that has Xbox One enhancements as well. When we install the game from disk, it appears as though the entire game is indeed on physical media. But as we approach the end of the installation and indeed launch into the game, we can see a familiar screen pop up. The Xbox needs to connect to the network to complete its installation. Essentially what this means is it's most likely requiring that it needs to connect to the network in order to download any sort of patches to run on the Xbox Series X hardware. This is backward compatibility after all, and indeed we probably need some type of download in order to complete this installation. Now, the second example is much more interesting, and it has to do with the most common form of Xbox Series X physical media available right now, and that is smart delivery discs. These are denoted with the Xbox Series X, Xbox One hardware branding, and the smart delivery logo on the case. These are physical media discs but support Xbox's smart delivery system. Essentially, smart delivery provides the end user with the best possible version of a game for the hardware that they are on. So for example, if you digitally purchase Forza Horizon 5 and you own both an Xbox One and an Xbox Series X, you are entitled to both versions of the game. It's a clever system and it really makes life so much easier. However, as a physical format, smart delivery discs come with some concerns. In general, most Xbox Smart Delivery physical discs only contain the lowest common denominator on the disc itself. In other words, the Xbox One version comes on disc. This implies that if you own an Xbox Series X, then the game itself on disc won't exist, and it requires an internet connection to download the Series X specific build from. The worst offender here is Halo Infinite. When released physically, it came as a smart delivery disc, but the game simply doesn't exist on disc for the Xbox Series X. You must go online to download the game, and considering the single-player campaign, this is very disappointing. So with that all said, let's test our smart delivery games. First up is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's a 41.2GB install and contains the 1.00117 version on the disc. When we attempt to launch into the game, we receive the familiar "this game isn't ready" screen, and we must go online to finish the install. And this is indeed consistent with our lowest common denominator theory. Far Cry 6, a release from October of 2021, again is a smart delivery game, and after the 37GB download is complete, can we launch into the game? No, the same error screen is displayed. But there's an even faster way to know if the game will work during installation. If we go directly into the My Games and Apps screen, you can see both Far Cry 6 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla in the Xbox One list of games. And with that, we've proven the lowest common denominator theory. I tried to install another smart delivery game, Resident Evil Village, and as you can see, it's installing in the Xbox One grouping. So clearly this game will not run either without online connectivity and an update. And this is the main frustration with smart delivery on physical media. However, I do have some interesting updates here. The concept of lowest common denominator does not always apply, and Microsoft appear to be listening to the concerns of customers. The second game that I installed is Balan Wonderworld, not a particularly great game, but a single-player game that comes on a physical smart delivery disc. During the install, I expected the inevitable, but I was pleasantly surprised when the game loaded completely into its menu and is 100% playable offline as a smart delivery game on the Xbox Series X. Now this, I will say, is a first for me, and now I am curious to know how many more smart delivery games are playable without online checks. Hopefully the community can come together to make a list. I'm sure many people who want to purchase Xbox physical media would certainly be interested. It's important to note that smart delivery isn't mandatory. Developers simply don't need to use it, and you can determine these by the branding on the case. If the game simply says Xbox Series X, like this game here, GTA 5, then this is not a smart delivery game. And in this scenario, and with my tests to date, every single game that I've tested that is not a smart delivery disc like this one works 100% from disc without any online checks. What this means is the full Xbox Series X version is all here on disc. GTA 5 is an interesting example. It comes on 2 Blu-ray discs and is an 85GB install. It also comes with GTA Online as well as the offline story campaign. After 30 minutes or so of installing, as expected, we are able to launch into the game without any online check requirement. Now in the past, I only knew of a handful of non-smart delivery discs, including Devil May Cry 5 and Control. But the good news here is that more non-smart delivery games are starting to appear, especially as more developers begin to opt out of the Xbox One builds. The need for smart delivery simply is lessened, and the result of this is that I would expect more complete games to exist on non-smart delivery physical media for exclusively on the Xbox Series X. And for me, and I'm sure for many others who are interested in collecting physical media, it can only be a good thing. In the past, I didn't really bother with Xbox One and Xbox Series physical media due to its DRM, but the inevitability that smart delivery will become less and less important over time means that we can start to enjoy full games on physical media once again. and that is a good thing. So in conclusion, there are 3 things that you need to consider. If you're purchasing physical media and you have an old Xbox One game, it will simply not work offline. You'll need to perform an online check. If you buy a Xbox Series X Smart Delivery Disc, there's a pretty good chance that it will not run and you'll need an online check in order to complete its installation. But, as we saw with Balan Wonderworld, that is not always the case, and I'd be very interested to know what other games are able to be run simply on an Xbox Series X without any online check that is a smart delivery disc. And the third and best option is a non-smart delivery game such as GTA 5. This will always run offline without any type of online check requirement. So hopefully this helps explain how physical-based DRM works on the Xbox Series X. The smart delivery format discs are really kind of the big elephant in the room when it comes to DRM, but as we've seen, it's not always the case where they will be the lowest common denominator. But at the end of the day, I do think that physical-based games on the Xbox will improve as we start to move away from smart delivery games. And again, that is a good thing for the consumer. I do expect that we'll start to see full games that can be installed off physical media, that can be played offline, start to really become the norm once again. But I'm going to leave it here for this episode. I really just wanted to illustrate what the current landscape of DRM looks like when it comes to physical media on the Xbox Series X, and hopefully you learned something from this. Let me know if you have any questions about it in the comments below. As always, if you like this episode, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.